Hello?
Hello, it's me. I was
Hi.
wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet.
Not to burst your bubble, but already told me you're the don't turn around guy, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Wow.
Uh,
You are very good.
I'm sorry, your cousin said you'd be a good setup and you'd be a good sport about it, but you love scary
Yeah.
stuff, he also said.
Well, as long as it's not happening to me, yes.
Okay then, well, would you like to hear a scary story?
Sure, what kind?
Let me see. Let me find you a good one. This will do. Okay, this is a creepy one about a guy in a wheelchair in high school.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's hear it.
All right. So it all started on a gloomy Monday morning at
Highland Park High School. See, my name is James, and at 14, I found myself confined to a wheelchair after an accident involving a speeding car and a drunk driver. The mundane routine of navigating the halls, dodging classmates, and the challenges of crossing the street were my daily companions. Highland Park High was your typical high school, bustling with energy, chattering teens. I rolled into Mr. Pembroke's class, a man who, for some reason, gave me the creeps. Perhaps it was the way his eyes lingered a second too long or the unsettling silence that filled his room. But life went on, and I did my best to blend into the sea of students. Little did I know that this ordinary day would unravel a mystery that would change everything. One summer had passed since a girl went missing, leaving behind a void that echoed through the empty hallways during breaks. I couldn't escape the unsettling feeling that the missing girl's presence still haunted the school. The hallway outside of Mr. Pembroke's class was adorned with missing posters, each one casting a shadow on the supposedly cheerful environment. The girl's face stared back at me, her eyes seemingly pleading for answers. Every time I rolled past those posters, an unshakable fear crept over me. It wasn't just the fear of the unknown, it was the fear of the possibility that someone was lurking in the shadows that knew more than they were letting on. I've always believed that being in a wheelchair granted me a unique perspective on the world. While others hurriedly traversed the hallways, I became intimately acquainted with the subtle intricacies of the school's architecture. The texture of each floor beneath my wheels told stories. Tales of polished linoleum, worn-out carpets, and the occasional squeaky tile that disrupted the rhythm of my daily journey. It was a world hidden in plain sight, a world most overlooked. Perhaps it was this heightened awareness, born out of a necessity, that allowed me to notice the discrepancy in Mr. Pembroke's classroom floor. As my wheels glided over the classroom that day, a peculiar sensation caught my attention. The unusual smoothness was interrupted by a subtle shift. Most wouldn't notice such a nuanced detail, but I had a heightened sensitivity to the world beneath me. The texture was different, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. During the scorching days of summer when most students reveled in the freedom of a break, I found myself attending summer school. The monotony of lectures and the sweltering heat made those days blend together. However, one memory remained etched in my mind. The distant hammering sound emanating from Mr. Pembroke's room. I had gone once to see what was going on, but his door was locked. So I rolled around to the windows, but he had shut all the curtains. I devised a plan. As the final bell echoed through the empty hallway, signaling the exodus of students, I positioned myself inconspicuously down the hallway. I watched as Mr. Pembroke left the classroom. The moment the door closed behind him, I seized the opportunity. The stillness of the school building was still palpable as I rolled into the deserted classroom. The quiet creak of the door echoed like a warning, but determination drowned out any apprehension. The task of moving the chairs in Mr. Pembroke's classroom proved more challenging than I had anticipated. Each chair felt like a weighted anchor, and the confined space made the process cumbersome. As sweat formed on my forehead, I persevered, determined to clear the room of obstacles. Finally, with the chairs neatly stacked to one side, I checked out the room. Yep, it was subtle, but it was there. 2 floors, a rectangle within a rectangle. My mind raced, connecting the dots between the peculiar floor and Mr. Pembroke's, the engineering teacher. I recalled the protective demeanor he exhibited towards his desk. The realization struck me. The answers I sought might be locked away inside. With a mix of trepidation and determination, I rolled towards the desk. The air in the room seemed to thicken as I hesitated for a moment, contemplating the risk of what I was about to do. Yet the need for answers prevailed, and with a resolute breath, I pulled out a hammer. I knew I might need to smash his lock. I slammed it down, busting it into several pieces. I pulled open the top drawer. Inside were some papers, keys, a calculator, and an odd remote control. It beckoned me. My curiosity overcame any lingering hesitation, and I grasped the remote in my hand. Its buttons were cold against my fingertips. An eerie silence enveloped the room. The quiet was so palpable, I could almost hear the suspense hanging in the air. A gradual realization dawned as I clicked the remote again. The floor beneath me groaned, a sound so subtle it felt like the earth itself was whispering secrets. It started shifting, revealing a hidden room in the floor. I was mesmerized. Peering in, the shock struck me like a bolt of lightning. Before me lay a secret chamber, almost like a hidden living space. Books, makeshift shelves, drinks were scattered on a small table, and a bed sat inconspicuously in the corner, as if someone had been living beneath the classroom floor. However, the limited view from my vantage point left many questions unanswered. I couldn't see everything clearly. Fueled by a burning curiosity and the need for a closer look, I made a spontaneous decision. Abandoning my wheelchair, I threw myself to the ground and began to climb in. A sudden and chilling sight caught my eye. Tucked away in the shadows, almost concealed, was a skeletal figure. There was no denying the stark reality before me. Fear gripped me as I took in the grim scene. Questions raced through my mind, each one more haunting than the last. Who was this person? How did they end up here, hidden beneath the floor of a high school classroom? My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, illuminating the chamber with a harsh brightness. I noticed, "Help me," written hundreds of times on the table. Pembroke's put me here. Then, and I'll never forget this, tell my brother, mom, and dad I love them. With each passing moment, the gravity of the situation sunk in. My heart skipped a beat as the classroom door above me squeaked open. Panic set in. My gaze shot upward to see Mr. Pembroke's peering in. "James?" The realization of being caught struck me with fear. As Mr. Pembroke loomed over, the oppressive weight of his presence intensified. Survival instincts kicked in. In a surge of adrenaline, my hands fumbled for any leverage. I grabbed onto Mr. Pembroke's foot. A moment of panic flashed in his eyes as he teetered on the edge of the hidden room. The struggle intensified, and with a determined pull, I yanked him off balance. The force was enough to send him tumbling beside me. The initial shock of my actions gave way to a swift decision. Summoning every ounce of strength, I propelled myself upward, scrambling to escape. I reached for the remote control. My fingers trembled as I clicked it, and the chamber began to close. Between the diminishing gap, I could see Mr. Pembroke struggling to get up. My heart raced as he clawed his way towards the narrowing exit, and just as it seemed he might escape, the door reached its limits, sealing it shut with a final thud. The idea of calling the police flickered in my mind, but as I thought about it more, I thought about the girl he had trapped starving to death in there. With renewed purpose, I set about fixing the chairs and erasing any traces of the secret room underneath. The next day, the mundane routine of high school life continued, but my mind buzzed with unsettling knowledge that I now harbored. As I sat there, listening to the sub drone on and on, I could feel the vibrations in my chair of Mr. Pembroke screaming to escape. I chuckled to myself. Maybe I'd make an anonymous call in a few weeks. Although another choice did come to mind. See, there was this guy, Trevor, the school bully.
Maybe he'd like a turn in the chamber. We'll see.
Wow. That is so creepy. That was really cool. A turn in the chamber.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Maybe I'll call back with another one soon.
That would be fun.